Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 5 and episode number 749 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Monday, September 29th, 2025. Let's try that again, 2025. And I'm looking outside, and it looks like, again, it's a gray day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. But if you were around on Friday, there is some bonus Grizzly for you. Again, Mr. Grizzly solo, because yours truly was in transit towards Stratford for the weekend. We were supposed to start at 6 originally, but it seems that on the channel there was a rebroadcast. We do that. We have our regular shows live, and then later on, a few days later, we rebroadcast them live on our there are various tabs. There's a video tab and a live tab. So all our live shows are under the live tab, and then the video tabs are rebroadcast. And we had planned that for 6, which would have given me a chance to pop in and say hello very briefly between the car and the restaurant. But there was a show going on, so we had to delay to 6:30, and I had food in my mouth at that time, so I wasn't able to join you. But Mr. Grizzly definitely had a show for you. So if you missed it, then please make sure that you take some time to catch it on our channel, and we will have it for you in podcast form relatively soon. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health doing this morning? I am doing well. A little tired. It was a short night again yesterday. Unfortunately, we got home a little later than we had desired, but that's because we were having such a wonderful time that we delayed our departure. So self-inflicted. Uh, but feeling great. I had a wonderful weekend. We left on Friday to head off to Stratford, and traffic was okay. We unfortunately had to, because of the hour we were traveling, we were going through Toronto right through evening rush hour. So we did the 407 thing. So we're probably going to get a pretty salty bill when we come home. When we come home in a couple of days for the distance that we traveled on it, in order to be sure that we could have dinner before we went to see the play. But we got to Stratford and went to a beautiful place called Annie's Seafood. And I was spoiled this weekend, to be totally honest, because when I went there, it was a seafood place that had a very extensive gluten-free menu and even its own dedicated fryer. So I didn't have to worry about having the Hamilton experience all over again. And I had some exceptionally good fish and chips, all gluten free. I had onion rings. I haven't had onion rings in 30 years. It's the first place I've ever been to that's made gluten free onion rings ever since I found out that I was allergic to certain things. Um, so yeah, had a absolute great meal at an absolutely fantastic price, I must say. Then we went to go see a production of Anne of Green Gables, which was really fun because my Beaver Sweetie was not familiar with the story. Being from Romania, didn't grow up with the story at all. Picks up a little bit of a Canadian culture and lore along the way. And it was a very interesting production. The set was absolutely fantastic. But it was a very modern telling in the sense that it seems that, for example, it was like a book club that was getting ready to read it, and book club with people of various ages, and as they're getting down to read it, they start to imagine it, and in the first act, they imagine it pretty much, as we know it, and in the second act, they throw a little twist in it and imagine it a little differently. So, first act and second act are a little different. And again, this set decoration when it was revealed, the whole audience went ooh. So that was kind of nice. It's very rare that you see a ooh for set decoration, but it was really spectacular. And of course, great play. Uh, Good for the whole family. Kids would definitely love it. It's not the dry, uh, all period sort of piece type, telling of it. It's slightly different and, definitely very well done. And then we had a good night's sleep, and the following morning walked around Stratford and enjoyed it a little bit. Went to another place for breakfast called Features, which also had a lot of gluten-free choices and dedicated fryer as well. So had a wonderful breakfast there, and then on the afternoon went to go see the matinee performance of a Shakespeare play called A Winter's Tale, and I have to admit that this is one I did not know. I didn't know the title. I had no idea it had been written. It's not, you know, I'm, I must readily admit I'm not the most up to date on Shakespeare. We read what we read when we were in school and saw a couple of plays, and I've seen a couple of things on my own. But outside of the plays that we've read in school, I never sat down and read a Shakespeare play myself, unless there was like for theater specifically, right? In terms of acting myself. So this is one I did not know. I had no idea it existed before we saw the advertising for it this year. It got rave reviews in the press all summer long, so we decided to go see it, and wow, it did not disappoint. Staging again, absolutely phenomenal. And if you've never been to Stratford, they have four theaters, and we've been to three of the four so far in the three or four times that we've gone. We still haven't been to the studio, but we've been to the other three, and all of them are. There's not a bad seat in the place, and the settings, even in the biggest one, seem somewhat intimate. You seem to be closer to the action. So this one sort of had people sitting on three sides. So the actors had to do some 360-degree acting, which was very interesting for the staging. Um, and it's a play that sort of starts out like it would be a Shakespeare tragedy, but ends a little more comical, which is kind of interesting. And like I said, the story I didn't know anything about it at all. Uh, and actually, after seeing it, I don't know if it had to do with the staging or the acting. There was one actress. Her name is Yana McIntosh in it. She is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Like several times when there was a scene and the scene was over, I'm like turning around to my Beaver Sweetie and go, my God, she's good. I just couldn't hold back. So props to her, but a great cast as well in that one. And yeah, this like I said, it's a tale I did not know, and I have to say, of all the Shakespeare I've had the privilege of having to take in my opinion, this was the best play. I know people love Macbeth and they love Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet and all of those things, but this one was the best one by far, and I have no idea why it isn't more popular or known. But this was a really, really good tale. Um, yeah. So again, my jaw on the floor with everything having to do with this play. Stratford just produces stuff at a level that is phenomenal. I think that now this is maybe about the fifth play that I've seen there or sixth, and just phenomenal. When we saw To Kill a Mockingbird a few years ago, um, like I said, it just knocks your socks off what they're able to do. Now, of course, this is what they do, and they're dedicated to this. So, I mean, it's in that sense, it's no surprise, and it's world famous. But when you see it with your own eyes, they really do put in a ton of work, and you um, let's just put it this way: the price of the ticket, you see where every nickel has gone. Absolutely. So, great weekend of theater. And like I said, two plays, one the story of which I knew, the other I didn't. The story that I knew was presented in such a way that it was very fresh, and the one that was the story I didn't know was presented in such a way that, as far as I'm concerned, it was the best Shakespeare I've ever seen in terms of acting, staging, and just the overall plot line. So, yeah, um, great weekend. Um, we drove away from there and we're stopped in Toronto overnight because we didn't want to. It's close to about a 5 hour drive from where we are, so we didn't doing it all in one night and doing it all in the second night was a lot, especially since I don't drive. So we stopped in Toronto, but we had a good reason for that because the next day they're celebrating the birthday of our good friend Deborah. We jokingly say that she's our fairy gay daughter. So a few years ago, you might have remembered if you've been with us for a while during COVID, she got married to her lovely, lovely, lovely partner Eric, and I was the MC for the post-wedding ceremonies there. And so they had just recently celebrated their fifth anniversary, and it was Deborah's birthday, her 38th. Happy birthday, fairy goddaughter. So we went and had brunch together and then stopped over at her place for cake and conversation and all that kind of stuff. And things were going so well. We were thinking of leaving around 5 o'clock. And we ended up leaving around 7:30 or something. And when we absolutely, absolutely had to, got caught in some construction on the way back, which delayed us. And so rather than getting back at around 9 o'clock, like we had hoped, or even 8 o'clock, we got home a little bit past 11. And yeah, that kind of made it such that, you're unpacking the car and winding down and all that kind of stuff, that we got to bed a little later. And I will be honest with you, kits and cubs, as a result, uh, don't didn't have much time to put into prep for today. So that's why we are doing the grab bag thing, um, uh, showing you how the sausage is made. Sometimes when you take a mental health break from the news and decide to take some time to enjoy a little culture, the company of your beloved, and the company of good friends. Um, One of the things that we do when we know that the content is going to be a little thin, because I haven't had time to research. I mean, there's the whole Canada Post thing going on, and I could talk to you easily for about an hour about that, except that I haven't watched any of the press conferences yet. I just kind of know the overall broad lines of what happened. So that's not a level of detail that's good enough for you, kids and cubs. So there are still some things that I need to do. So when that happens, what we do is we just reach into the grab bag and see what comes out, because there are a lot of political stories to follow, and some of them don't necessarily get all the attention that they deserve. We have to make some choices when we bring the show to you. So every now and then, reaching into the grab bag to get caught up on some smaller stories that may have come up and little bits of news is a fun thing to do. And it's also uh, a little bit of like I said, a little bit of a trick when we need to take some mental time off and need to come back and still do a show. Hey, Gotta be honest with you, kids and cubs. Gotta be honest. So, ho my mental health is doing well. I hope yours is doing well as well. I hope that you had a wonderful weekend surrounded by love and laughter and lots of fun activities, and maybe took some time to disconnect. Let's go see who's with us this morning. We have Kit Elaine saying, "Good morning, everyone." Kit Grace is here. So is Kit Bucky. Oh, and there you go. Kit Bucky also had some celebrations. Says, "Back from my birthday retirement celebration in Toronto. Hadn't been there for years. The city has really improved. It's clean and vibrant." I hope that you had a wonderful birthday and retirement celebration, Bucky. Uh, if you don't mind sharing in the chat, hopefully I will see it during the show. If not, I will see it after. What type of career it is that you are retiring from? Would be interesting to know that. But congratulations, a retirement, I am sure, that has been very well earned. Now we have Kit Uncover saying morning. We have Kit Mo on here saying happy belated to Bucky here. We have Kit Mayhem here, smiling and waving. We have, yes, yes, Kit Grace celebrating the Blue Jays. Way to go, Blue Jays. We were doing that yesterday during the brunch, checking in on the score all the time. The Blue Jays had an interesting end to the season. There was a little stretch there, I think, where they lost 5 in a row, but they ended the season winning their last 4. And I think in one of the 5 in a row that they lost, there was a game that they lost 20-1 or something, which was like, oh boy, what happened there on that day? But going into yesterday's match, which was the final match of the regular season, the Blue Jays were tied with the New York Yankees, but on top because, as we mentioned in the season series, I think they had played 13 times, and the Blue Jays had won 8-5, and the Blue Jays had won 8, and the Yankees had won 5, which gave, if everything was tied at the end, the Blue Jays the advantage. But yes, had the Yankees won and the Blue Jays lost, well, then uh, the Blue Jays would not have won the AL East race. But the game came and went yesterday, and the Blue Jays did emerge victorious, and that pretty much settled everything, Kits and Cubs. So yeah, the Toronto Blue Jays win the AL East this year. Um, Not the first time. I think this might be the 7th time or so, if I remember correctly what I heard on the news, that the Blue Jays have done this since they've been in existence, but about the first time in about a decade, I believe. So Blue Jays fans who had been rather patient, definitely savoring this. It ended up being a 13-4 win against the Tampa Bay Rays for the Blue Jays. When we had checked in the first time, the Jays were leading 5-4. So uh, biting nails a little bit, but it ended up being a good, solid win for the Blue Jays. And yeah, there we go. No, and the Yankees were not playing yesterday. Why did I think that they were for some reason? I do not know why. Oh, yes, they were playing. And the Yankees had also won. They defeated the Baltimore Orioles. So the Blue Jays absolutely did have to win in order to secure the AL East. But they don't have to play the wild card now, of course, which means they advanced directly to the following phase. Uh, and that will give them time to get a little bit of rest before they have to play those first games. So, yeah, very exciting time for Canadian sports fans. There we go. First AL East title since 2015, according to Sportsnet, and it seems that Kirk hit 2 homers to win that game. So Mr. Kirk must be feeling rather good about himself. Speedy from Sportsnet. 6 months of grinding to qualify for the meaningful games of the 7th are over, and this Toronto Blue Jay season spent walking through a dream continues with the chance to push back the awakening deep into October. An American League East title, the club's first since 2015, secured Sunday by Alejandro Kirk's 2 home runs in the 13-4 win over the Tampa Bay Rays, helps clear that path, advancing them directly to the division series after a 94-68 finish in terms of wins and losses for the season, a 20-game jump up from a year ago when all this seemed so far away. The seeds of 2025 success, however, were planted amid 2024 ruin, surviving some early season tumult before taking hold May 28th when Bo Bichette's pitch hit two-run homer in the ninth inning at Texas gave his team a 2-0 win, the start of a 68-win and 40-loss run to the finish line. Still, the past week and a half threatened multiple times to veer from dream to nightmare, a four-game losing streak on the heels of a six straight wins, allowing the New York Yankees to creep back into the picture after Kansas City postseason berth clinch. Two losses to the Boston Red Sox stripped away what little margin for error remained. But Dalton Varshaw's grand slam and Thursday's 6-1 win over Boston helped key a last weekend flourish, which set up a dramatic game 162 to decide whether the Blue Jays or the Yankees claimed the AL's top seed and first-round bye, or played in the dreaded wildcard round against the Red Sox. The Yankees, 3-2 winners over Baltimore, handled their end of the matter, forcing the Blue Jays to win to claim the East. They didn't blink. Quote, "These things don't happen very often," Kirk said in the maelstrom of celebration on the field afterwards. Quote, "It's really hard to build this type of team that we have right now from one year to another. We're just having fun. We come here every night and we fight for each other, and this is what you get, right? You win the division." Four straight wins after losses in 6 of 7 outings got it done. Quote, "I just think it's so important to not panic in hard times. We leaned on each other, and that's kind of what we've done all year," Ernie Clement said after Saturday's 5-1 win. Quote, "When things get tough, it's easy to panic and start begging for stuff to go your way. But I think we did a really good job of weathering the storm, and our pitching staff has just picked us up in a huge way. Every guy in there has been amazing, and the last couple of games, they've continued to do their job." The swing from one road to the other is a massive one for the Blue Jays, who, after using ace Kevin Gossman, versus the Rays, would have been in a challenging spot with their pitching had they needed to play Tuesday instead of Saturday like they will now. With 5 days to rest now, they can reset their heavily worked pitching staff line up as they see fit to face the Yankees Red Sox winner, be able to activate both Chris Bassett and Ty France from the injured list, and buy more time to heal from the sprained PCL in the left knee of Bichette, who wouldn't have been ready for the wild card round. Still, there's balance to be struck between too much rest and keeping sharp that needs to be managed. Quote, "You can't turn it all the way off," said closer Jeff Hoffman, who went to the past two postseasons with the Philadelphia Phillies, entering with a bye last year. Quote, "Even though you're not playing in a series that's happening, the more you can keep on it, but idle it a little bit, the better off you're going to be. You can't take yourself out of your schedule, getting up at a decent hour, getting to sleep at a decent hour, all the good stuff for recovery. If we can keep it at idling and get some competition against each other, and we're going to be great." Sunday's victory before a raucous and energetic crowd of 42,083 was more difficult than the final score suggested, as Gossman battled through 3.2 innings of heavy traffic as the Rays worked him for 4 runs on 8 hits and 2 walks. Only a crucial Mason Flaherty strikeout of Jonathan Aranda, with the bases loaded to end the fourth, kept the Blue Jays' lead at 5-4, whittled down by a 3-spot that inning. Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s RBI single in the first inning had tied the game 1-1 before Kirk's grand slam opened up a big lead, and the Blue Jays restored some breathing room in the fourth. When Clement singled was sacrificed to second by Miles Straw and brought home by an Andres Gimenez sac fly, Kirk's 2-run shot in the fifth made it an 8-4 game before a 5-spot in the seventh featuring 2 homers by Addison Barger and George Springer around a Straw RBI triple gave team staff time to prepare for a champagne shake and spray. Schneider joked before the game about being, quote, hour to hour with tummy troubles, but at the same time, quote, "The anxiousness right now, today comes 365 days worth of stuff that comes down to one day." By the time the seventh was over, only counting outs to the celebrations amid rolling "Let's go Blue Jays" chants remained. Quote, "They never doubted each other, they never doubted themselves," said Schneider. To know that you probably have to win 4 games in a row to win the division, they were up for it. They made it look a little bit easier than it is, and it was like that all year. So I had all the confidence in the world in them, and they have all the confidence in the world in themselves. The process of building toward this began last September amid the wreckage of a lost year when the Blue Jays began an examination of anything and everything they did. Quote, taking a step back and saying like, "Hey, to a man, where did we beep up?" is how Schneider put it. By the time spring training had arrived, that work showed up in a renewed approach to game planning, defensive alignments, and in-game processes. Every team talks about renewal and change and the like during the spring. With the Blue Jays, it stuck. Quote, "We're all together," said Guerrero. "That's the only thing I can say. Everything is together and we do a lot of stuff together. To me, that's good. It helps a lot. We think about our team. We don't think about ourselves. We think about our teammates and believe in each other, and that makes your job easier." Added Bichette, there's one goal in mind to win, and nobody was going to let anything else distract us from that. It's pretty simple. You always go into every season with that being the goal, but there are things that get in the way. This year, we've kept it to one thing, and good things happened. A 12-8 opening to the season was undone by 12 losses in 16 games, stretching from April 19th to May 7th, when the Blue Jays sat at a season worst 4 games under 500 at 16 wins and 20 losses. Still, another nadir followed when the Blue Jays got swept in 3 games at Tampa Bay during what was their worst series of the season, being outscored 19-2 while managing only 14 hits. The rebound in Texas, capped by Bichette's homer, followed. Then the Blue Jays gained further momentum by a 4 game sweep of the Yankees in Toronto, June 30th to July 3rd, and they just kept going from there. Quote, that was a big moment where everybody was like, all right, we can do this, said lefty Eric Lauer, who stabilized the pitching staff upon his late April arrival, contributing in a number of roles, including handling the ninth Sunday. Quote, that was a big one, but it's been a running thing where collectively we all just feel like we've got it, you know? There's never a downturn. Even if we struggle for a few games, there's never woe is us, sad, oh no, we can't do this anymore. No, it's always screw it, move on, we're good, let's go to the next one. Added Bichette, every team's going to face adversity, but that's just how we fought back from everything. There's a lot of fight in this group, and that's pretty cool. Rebound seasons from Bichette, who finished second in the majors with 181 hits and 44 doubles despite missing the final 3 weeks, and Springer, who hit 32 homers and finished with the AL second best OPS at .959, along with another all-star campaign from Guerrero, helped underpin an offense that finished second in the AL with 798 runs. But it was the 20-homer pop of Varsho and steady contributions from the bottom half of the lineup by the likes of Clement, Nathan Lukes, Barger, Straw, Davis Schneider, and Tyler Heineman that kept the lineup productive. The rotation managed through early season injuries to Scherzer and Bowden Francis, while a bullpen that crashed and burned last year improved to middle of the pack. Along the way, the Blue Jays displayed 2 traits Varsho identified it as key. 1, resilience and trust. Everybody contributed. There wasn't one person on this roster throughout the season that didn't contribute. To be able to do what we did this year and to be able to win the division is awesome. Awesome enough for a champagne party in Kansas City last Sunday and another in Toronto, this one putting them in position to enjoy more along the way. Quote, every year can unfold in any which way, said Scherzer. The way this season played out, how this clubhouse came together, the way we played in the middle of the season when we all clicked and fired on all cylinders, you got that taste of it. I've been here before, seen things like this. It's that type of feeling where you're on a great team, you know you're going to get the results that you want. These are the moments you play for. You love this. It never gets old. You look forward to the next time you're out there. That's when the walk through a dream continues next Saturday in game 1 of the ALDS versus an opponent that is yet to be determined. So, yeah, Blue Jays totally on the bandwagon, as are many other kits here in the chat making mention of that. I'm going to just lower the light here. I think I'm a little washed out. Uh, so, going back to who's here today. Yes, indeed. Elaine celebrating our 26,300 subscribers now. We have Kit Argosi Acres as well. Kit Moan here saying Jay's merch everywhere. I'm loving it. Kit Linda M saying good morning, folks. Who else do we have with us in the chat? The Breens are here. Good morning to you both. Linda M had a rugby and curling to watch this weekend, much more preferable to paying attention to Skippy and his nonsense. Indeed. Also some results there from a rugby. Unfortunately, the women's team at the World Cup were not able to win the final match against England. But then again, of course, I mean, it is England. However, it was a very good match, and Team Canada did get off to a great start, having scored the first try in the match. Uh, that's never a bad thing. So they set the tone, but unfortunately for us, England was too strong. They won the first half 21-8, the second half 12-15, winning the match 33-13 for gold. But Team Canada picks up silver. New Zealand picked up the bronze of the tournament, with France finishing in fourth place. And Sophia De Goody did have a great night despite the loss. because she won a prize, I believe, as the player of the year, which is quite um, an honor for Team Canada. But yes, uh, maybe not. It's Sophia, I think, not Sophie. Good. No, Sophie DeGoody. I was right the first time. Pardon me. I thought I had mispronounced her name there at first, and wanted to make sure I get that absolutely right. But yeah, uh, definitely a big honor for her to win that award, Player of the Year for the season. So winner player Sophia the Good wins Women's 15 Player of the Year. XV. Okay, I'm not sure what the XV means. Uh, there, I'm not familiar enough, unfortunately, with that terminology. But according to TSN over here, uh, it says, oh, sorry. Nope. This is not an article, but video, unfortunately. And the company is being a little temperamental today, I will say. Uh, so, yeah, let's go to this one instead. This is from the Victoria Times columnist, as it is published by Cleve here, who writes, despite the exhortation of St. John's who gathered on their couches or at watch parties, the dream died Saturday on the famous rugby pitch of Twickenham. England defeated Canada 33-13 for the 25 Women's Rugby World Cup final before a women's rugby record crowd of 81,885 fans. That must have been loud in there. It was a bittersweet moment for the Canadian star Sophie de Goody of Victoria, who after the game was named World Rugby Female Player of the Year for her painstaking year-long rehab and comeback to start in the World Cup after an ACL injury kept the Oak Bay High School graduate out of Canada's run to the silver medal at the 2024 Paris Olympics. Island-based Asia Hogan Rochester from West Shore RFC of Juan de Fuca scored 2 tries for Canada in the World Cup final. De Goody, one of 7 players from the Castaway Wanderers Club of Oak Bay on the Canadian team, added a penalty goal to finish third in the World Cup, scoring with 61 points in 6 games, behind bronze medalist Kiwis Braxton Sorensen McGee on 69 points and Renee Holmes with 64. De Goody also led the tournament in carry offloads and lineout takes, but it was all consolation. Quote, I'm very proud. I thought we had a very good tournament, and I'm very disappointed we couldn't finish the job because everybody believed we could have done the job. It just didn't go our way today, said Canada captain Alex Tessier in her post-game media interview. We started the game a bit flat and didn't impose our rhythm. We didn't panic, but didn't manage to play our game in the long run. England pressured us in the set pieces and scrums, but hats off to the girls for doing a tremendous job throughout the tournament. Congrats to England for dominating us in the scrum. The disappointment of the day reverberated from Twickenham among the Canadian players who train at Rugby Canada headquarters in Langford. They lifted de Goody on their shoulders for her World Rugby Player of the Year award, but then settled for stepping only to the second rung of the podium as a team. That pressure and flair the Canadians exerted throughout the rest of the tournament went sadly missing in the final. England, were better than us, said a subdued Canada head coach Kevin Ruett. It was not our day, and that's it. The better team won today. England was overwhelming in winning its 63rd game in its last 64 outings against all competition and moving to 34 wins, 3 losses, I'm not sure that's 34 losses, 3 ties, and 1 loss. I would think that against all time against Canada. The consolation for the Canadians is that they won a lot of new converts to rugby across the country, not just in hotbeds of the sport like Victoria and the island, but also in places where the game is not as well known. It is a back-to-back double hit of exposure for Canadian rugby, along with the women's silver medal last year in the sevens at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. Several of the Olympic silver medalists were key to Canada's run at the World Cup, including starting flanker Caroline Crossley of Victoria out of the Castaway Wanderers and Hogan Rochester. Adding to the growing sense of buoyancy at Rugby Canada headquarters in Langford is that the men's national side, meanwhile, has qualified for the 2027 World Cup in Australia after missing out for the first time in the last World Cup in 2023 in France. Lost in the hubbub of the World Cup final was the fact that the Canadian team had to fundraise just to get to the World Cup, something I think is absolutely unconscionable. The goal now is to keep that flame alive in Langford in sevens throughout the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics and into the 2029 Women's World Cup. Quote, I know sometimes people will forget, and we know we have to wait 4 years, 2029 World Cup. So we're going to wait the 4 years and we're going to come back, said Canadian bench boss Rouette. And not only did our Canadian women make us extremely proud, nothing to hang your head down in shame, playing against a team that's only lost one of their last 64 matches. The undeniable that good of a performance, even though people are saying that, or the team are saying that they started a little flat. If they started a little flat, they still scored the first try. So um, they might be being a little hard on themselves, but the whole nation is ferociously proud. And the prime minister, who was on a business trip to the UK, meeting with leaders of several nations, took time to take in the event while he was there. And I would hope that the fact that this was an event that the prime minister, given he was there, felt important enough to attend, would signify that the fundraising issues will no longer be an issue. Hopefully, um, that would mean that either there will be direct funding from Sports Canada in some way, or a sponsorship, a corporate sponsorship coming soon. Come on, corporate Canada. Look, these are spectacular people that any company should consider it a privilege to have the names of these athletes associated with them in any way. So break out the wallets. Good performances deserve to be rewarded. So let's see you step up. Okay, let's give our women some support. Ah, all right. So, things to celebrate over the course of the weekend. And getting back to who's in the chat today, we have Miss Shatika here. Hello to you and all your family. Jenny's here saying good morning, everyone, and good morning to you. Miss Shatika, again, Douglas, that is unacceptable. I will only donate in $2 increments because I'm doing the grab bag thing. Ah, I will take whatever you have. I will take whatever you have, my dear friend. We have Kit Charles here. Hey, nice to see you this morning. It's been a while since I've seen your face on our screen and your name. Thank you so much. Kit Argosi agreeing that Stratford is indeed a pretty place. Kit Linda M saying onion rings are my favorite things. I know, they're just so good, aren't they? Ah, I hadn't realized how much I missed them. I've never, as a kid, I was always an onion rings kid, and not so much fries. Even as an adult, I'm not so much fries. I'll have them every now and then and enjoy them like this, but onion rings, I would never say no to. Could uncover here with the beaver joke of the day. How do beavers compliment each other's work? Damn fine craftsmanship, buddy. Damn fine. Kit Swanky Frankie is here saying good morning as well. Kit Nona Carol, Double D, is here saying morning. Lovely to see you. Kit PNC Bio's here. Hey. And then announcing that he's gone, Bill, back in 20. So if I'm not sure if he's back yet or is still gone, but hey, glad you're here, kind of here, still here, soon we'll be here, whichever one it is. But nice to see you in the chat. And let's see, who else do we have here? I believe that might oh, Mateo is watching with me. Hey, Mateo. Good morning. Hello, my friend. Hope you're feeling better. Ah, okay. Let's see, who else do we have? Oh, Oliver Brown saying Europe won the Ryder Cup. Indeed, Oliver Brown's a new name for us. So good morning to you. Hope you enjoy your time at the Beaver Lodge. And yeah, just before coming on the show, I was watching a little video clip of Ryder Cup winners taunting Donald Trump. I didn't follow it much, to be honest, but from what I've been reading, it seems they called it the magnification of the event, based on um, apparently there might have been certain behaviors on the part of one of the teams that were not particularly appreciated. So yeah, and of course, Team Europe uh, has won a lot lately in the Ryder Cups, and It seems that there's at least online, there's this big thing. Oh my God, what does America need to do? Wow, with the Ryder Cup, it seems that more people are concerned about that than about. Uh, well, not more people, but there's a lot of people that seem to be more concerned about that than the four mass shootings that happened in the United States over the course of the weekend. Just leaving it out there like that. Yeah. So, but yes, absolutely. Uh, Kid Bucky here. I had a 32-year career in the Foreign Service as a diplomat. Well, wow, that is fantastic. Maybe we should talk if you would like to be a guest. It would certainly be nice to talk to a kid about such a career and everything that it involves. No pressure, no pressure, but if that is something that you would like, I'm sure that that's something our audience could definitely benefit from hearing, because it's nice to. I once I don't not sure if you know this, but I mentioned it on the show. I once dated someone who was in the Foreign Service, so I got to see up close what it involves, and it's not the easiest job. It's far from the easiest job. So, yeah, if that's something that you would be interested in, I think it could be an interesting topic. But like I said, no pressure at all. But wow, congratulations and thank you for. We don't normally say this to military, but I believe our diplomatic corps also deserves to be thanked for their service because again, um, not an easy life. Being in the country for 4 years and then packing up and going somewhere for 4 years and being away from friends and family and relationships and making it harder to establish roots and having to go to new places as a grown up and make new friends, which is not necessarily easy. and knowing that a lot of these relationships are going to be just 3 and 4 year long ones, and then you move away, and it can be a tough life. It could be a tough life. And then when you're doing the job all the time that you're doing social events and facing, public facing events. I think my when I was dating that person in the Foreign Service, I think they were saying that 258 of the 365 days of the year or more, they were at some type of event or whatnot, which leaves very little time to pursue personal passions and takes a lot of time away from family and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a very demanding job and not one that a lot of people know about, and I think probably goes a little underappreciated. Totally honest. Who else? We have Kit Cassie here saying, "Good morning from the workout room." Oh, well, there you go. I'm going to guess that's a workout as an exercise. So you keep pumping that iron while we present the news. People singing the Blue Jays song here. In the chat, we have Kit Kat here saying the actions of the fans at the Ryder Cup yesterday were disgusting and not a peep from the PGA. Oh my. Wow. Okay. Definitely must have been something. Again, the behavior of the fans being described as vulgar and xenophobic by some kids in the chats here. We have Kit Jen with us. Good morning, my lovely. Thank you so much. Your presence is always very appreciated here. Um, going through. I've been interspersing with stories, so there's more to the chat here. But let's just say I'm going to consider everybody as James. Kit James came in. Hello, good morning to you. Here, was reading your description in the chat the other day there, James, about your look when you met your when you were in high school, and I remember that look. I remember that look quite fondly. I think every single one of my foster brothers had sport. I was the youngest one, so I think I was too young to sport that look, but I think every single one of my foster brothers did at some point. It was very popular. You must have been very popular. Let's put it that way. All right. Okay. And oh yes, Kit Donna with us saying good morning, Dan fam. Good morning to you. And I am Kit Ibad is with us as well. Nice to see you this morning. A lot of names we haven't seen for a while, and it makes my heart happy to see that you're all back. Kit Chen saying, I look positively adolescent with the clean shave. Aw, thanks. All right. More stuff, kids, cubs. As you know, going to touch on it a little, not completely ignore it, but I just can't bring you the detail that's going on. But with Canada Post, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers are on strike again. It seems that the broad outline is that, well, as we should know, because this is hardly a new story, Canada Post, for all intents and purposes, is insolvent. Um, Changes in technology, right? It's not necessarily management on the part of any one government or things like of the sort, but uh, there's just been major technological disruption going on, and things are different. It's operating in a completely different world. COVID certainly didn't help, accelerated that, and people are sending. There was a package service, of course, but Canada Post has a monopoly on mail, but not a monopoly on packages. So there was more competition, and right? COVID also created an opportunity for more of them to get in on competition. And then we had a strike not too long ago in the Christmas season, which caused a lot of smaller businesses, when and where they could, to change their consumer behavior. Um, and the situation just keeps on getting worse for Canada Post. There had been some talk some while ago about as a solution to try and make it such that Canada Post could offer some banking services as well in the smaller communities where it might not be advantageous for a bank to open a full branch. I don't know exactly why uh, that was not pursued. I know there was a reason. I just can't remember it off the top of my head, but they didn't go that route. Um, I thought it would have been a good opportunity to try and maybe, reduce some costs for Canada Post, or create extra business by co-locating. If banks would have paid Canada Post to offer some certain basic services right at the post offices, that could have been an income stream. Or if there were branches in smaller communities, in Canada Post could have their outlet within a bank branch, that could solve maybe certain cost issues as well. But they didn't go down that route. According to CTV's Kim Phillips, says here, what's to know as the Canada Post strike affects local services. Um, well, basically, what happened is that to finish off that portion is that at some point the federal government, Mark Carney specifically, got involved. It seems that there was a directive given with regard to home delivery, and that it seems that it will not be happening 5 days a week anymore. Um, there'll be more community mailboxes and stuff of the like. I'm not sure how much um, attention will have to be given to people with mobility issues in areas where there was door-to-door delivery 5 days a week. Um, Whether or not there'll be mailboxes, or there will be a way for people to register to maintain home delivery in those instances, but it might be reduced to, to 2 days a week or something. Um, but yeah, it seems that the the directive, according to Sean Boynton here of Global News, ends door-to-door delivery and will close. Uh, Joel Lightbound, who's the minister responsible for Canada Post, made the announcement on. Goes, Canada Post will be allowed to end their mail delivery to individual addresses and close or convert some post offices in a bid to stabilize its operations and restore its financial footing, the federal government announced Thursday. The government will also allow Canada Post to adjust its delivery standards for non-urgent letter mail, allowing it to be moved by ground instead of air to reflect today's lower volumes. Joel Lightbound, the minister responsible for Canada Post, said the changes are necessary to ensure the survival of the beleaguered national mail carrier and Crown Corporation. Quote, the situation is not sustainable, he said. Canada Post is effectively insolvent, and repeated bailouts are not a long-term solution. The government has had a moratorium in place on converting home delivery to community mailboxes since 2015. With that barrier lifted, the remaining 1/4 of Canadians still receiving daily mail delivery, about 4 million addresses, will now be served by community, apartment, or rural mailboxes instead. Lightbound said those conversions will be phased in over the next 9 years, the bulk of which will be in the next 3 or 4. The government says lifting the community mailbox moratorium alone will save Canada $400 million annually, with another $20 million saved by relaxing delivery standards. A government official said earlier Thursday that the 2 to 4 day delivery standard for regular mail will be relaxed to between 3 and 7 business days. The official could not immediately say if businesses will see similar delays in their mail or if they could be served by community mailboxes going forward. They noted that Canada Post has a program in place for people with mobility issues, there you go, and other needs to register for home delivery in areas served by community mailboxes. Good, I'm glad that exists. Lightbound said lifting the rural post office moratorium, which has been in place since the 1990s, reflects the fact that many areas once considered rural have grown to become suburban or urban in the decades since. The moratorium had ensured post offices operating as close as 400 meters from each other in those areas were forced to stay open unnecessarily. Lightbound insisted the change will not mean rural, remote, and Indigenous communities lose access to their mail. Quote, I want to be clear, Canada Post has an obligation to serve all Canadians in every community in Canada, and that will not change, he said. Lightbound said Ottawa will also be reviewing how to, quote, modernize and shorten the process for increasing stamp rates, a key revenue line for Canada Post. Canada Post will be tasked with delivering an action plan within 45 days on how it plans to put the changes into place, including their impact on workers and customers, as well as a plan on how to protect rural and Indigenous mail service. The minister said he's also asking Canada Post to take, quote, immediate steps to address its financial challenges, including finding efficiencies, reducing costs and overhead, and reviewing and lightening its management structure. Quote, Canada Post is facing an existential crisis. It's an institution that is worth saving, and we're beginning the work today, he said. While the minister could not rule out additional government funding infusions in the near future, he said the goal was to put limits on that support and build Canada Post for a long-term future. He framed the situation as a choice between taxpayers' bailouts or accepting changes to mail delivery that reflect modern realities. Quote, today's announcement will allow make the changes needed to restore Canada Post service for all Canadians by evolving to better meet their needs. Canada Post President and CEO Doug Ettinger said in a statement, quote, we take this responsibility seriously and will work closely with the government and our employees to move with urgency and implement the necessary changes in a thoughtful manner. Our goal is to ensure that a strong, affordable, Canadian-made, Canadian-run delivery provider supports the needs of today's economy and delivers to every community across the country. The moves announced Thursday were among the government's recommendations included in a report by the Industrial Institute in May, which found Canada Post is essentially bankrupt and needed sweeping reforms to its business to stay afloat. The company posted its worst quarter ever results last month with a $407 million loss in the second quarter of 2025 and says it has lost over $5 billion since 2018. Ottawa provided a $1 billion financial lifeline in January to keep the company operational. Over the past 20 years, Canada Post has gone from delivering 5.5 billion letters annually to 2 billion, the company says, despite a growing population, and number of households. Parcel deliveries have also declined thanks to what Lightbound says was customers turning to, quote, faster and more efficient private companies like UPS and Amazon. As a result, Canada Post's market share of those deliveries is now below 24%, compared to 62% in 2019. Wow, that is a big drop in 6 years. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers, which has been seeking a new contract for over a year in an increasingly bitter labor dispute, began warning about the potential impact of cuts to the postal service last week when news of a potential review of the government's Canada Post mandate began circulating. The company has frequently cited its dire financial situation for why it cannot meet many of the union's demands, particularly on wage increases and stopping contract work. Pressure has been building on the government for years, and particularly after postal workers went on strike for over a month last winter to step in and allow Canada Post to make necessary changes to its operations. And another one of the changes that is being considered is part-time work on the weekends so that Canada Post can deliver more packages, which might help them with their bottom line. In a statement to the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses called the government moves, quote, long overdue, but a positive step to making necessary changes that have been recommended for more than a decade. And that's the problem here. Is like I said, we've known this problem has existed for a while, even like more than a decade. We knew that we could see the trends changing. And uh, as is the case often in Canada, for some reason, nobody wanted to bite the bullet. Uh, and take the hit of making the tough changes that are being made now the changes have to be tougher because we didn't make them 10 or 15 years ago when we needed to. We have a similar situation, for example, in Ontario with colleges, and might be in several other provinces, but I know in Ontario specifically, the province would not properly fund post-secondary education, and then realized with foreign students we could charge them more and make up the shortfall that way. And then we had COVID happen, and then we had a lot of the diploma mill colleges start to happen, and then there were pressures. Eventually, with COVID, we had staffing shortages, and provincial premiers changed rules for foreign student work to allow them to work in more places and take on more hours. And we had more of these students, and then all of a sudden. Um, there was increased demand for housing, increased demand for health, and then provincial complained that we had too many people in the country, despite the fact that they had begged the federal government to allow more people in the country. And when the federal government then decided, okay, well, we are going to need to put the caps on, and the caps are put on to a point that we pretty much have zero net population growth at the moment, then all of a sudden the situations with the colleges, at least in Ontario, became very, very clear how they had been underfunded for many years, and that the provincial governments were relying on milking foreign students for a lot of money in order to be able to provide core funding to colleges and universities. And now that we can't um, take advantage or exploit those students anymore, because let's call it what it is, that's what we were doing. And they had tuition freezes and didn't compensate the colleges for the lost revenue for those tuition freezes. And things cost money, and you got to raise the price of things. And they didn't want to do it because it was politically unpopular. So all the things that they didn't want to do because they would be politically unpopular, they pile up. And then when you get a crisis, well, all of a sudden you have to take drastic action, like cutting immigration levels. Then all of a sudden, you see just how bare the cupboard is. But that's because there was work that needed to be done before, and it was either put off because it wouldn't be popular, hoping that the situation would solve itself, or that they would be able to exploit foreign students forever and keep on masking the problem, or that it would be some other government's problem down the road and they wouldn't have to deal with it. Somebody else would have to make the tough decisions. But now we have a situation, where certain colleges, if I remember correctly, I think the St. Lawrence College, I think, had before these caps had 92 programs that they were offering, and now they're offering just 51. That's a lot of different type of education that's just gone, right? They just announced that they are cutting their the whole food preparation and service program. The college has some absolutely extraordinary facilities for this. They even have their own college restaurant where people can come in and eat, and they have an opportunity to cook and serve and host and all that type of stuff. Some great facilities. I'm sure a lot of money was put into making sure those facilities were there, and now they're just going to sit there idle and not being used because somebody didn't make the tougher decisions a few years back down the road when they were needed. And we have the same thing here with Canada Post. There were decisions that needed to be made a long time ago, and they were delayed and they were put aside. So if we're talking about mismanagement in that way, because people were just too chicken to bite the bullet and make the hard decisions when they needed to back then yeah, Absolutely. But there is a major portion of this that is indeed, having to do with just disruption, technological change. Times are different, and the adaptation did not happen when it needed to. And now the corrective action taken has to be much more severe because, as Mr. Grizzly often points out on the show, um, Canada Post is not a business. It has a business model, but it is a service. And services are not necessarily intended to be profitable, but they're also not intended to bleed money at the particular rate that Canada Post is bleeding money as well. So, in terms of government responsibility, you have to try to make them as efficient as possible, even if you know that they can't necessarily be profitable. So, yeah, this particular government seems to be willing to take that hit. Public opinion does appear to be on its side. I think the public has the story has been in the public eye and returning off and on enough times for Canadians to know that this has indeed been an issue. And I mean, I think every Canadian, if they're honest with themselves, uh, they remember the last time they bought stamps. Might have been a while ago. So, yeah, they know it's true. They know it's true. Canada Post last week said it plans to present new global offers to the union that will allow the parties to return to the table next week for negotiations. Um, yeah. The timing of the announcement, coupled with new global offers, could reveal a lot about Canada Post's plans for bargaining, our jobs, and the future of the public post office. Canadian Union of Postal Workers National President Jan Simpson said in a statement Thursday ahead of Lightbound's announcement. The union met with Lightbound last week, but a follow-up meeting scheduled for this week was postponed. Lightbound said that last week's meeting was, quote, productive, and that it informed his request to the company to take, quote, a cold, hard look at its management structure as well as modernizing the stamp rate process. Quote, CUPW workers play an essential role in Canada Post's future, and I know that just as much as Canadians do, they care very much about the future of Canada Post and its financial viability. So there you go. It seems that there's also, as part of the pressure tactics, that there's an ongoing ban by the union on delivering flyers, which is hurting small businesses, which also makes it such that the Canadian Federation of Independent Business is more supportive of the government moves there. Um, so yes, it seems that the workers are using whatever leverage they have uh, because they do not like what the corporation is offering. However, I'm not sure in this particular case um, how it is that the corporation has any significant leeway uh, to meet worker requests in this instance. Um, Canada postal workers are the union is making the allegation that the reforms that Ottawa has given through directive gives Canada Post some leverage over the striking union in negotiations. Uh, Canada Post, of course, denies this. According to Benjamin Lopez Stephen of CBC News, Canada Post is denying the Liberal government's directive to change the Postal Service's operational model gives its leverage over striking unions in negotiations as the two sides continue their days-long showdown. Quote, I wouldn't argue that it's given us any leverage, said John Hamilton, a spokesperson for Canada Post during an interview on Rosemary Barton Live that aired Sunday. The union walked out in response to them. We've been told that it's now time to get back away from the taxpayer subsidies and make the changes, Hamilton told Rosemary Barton. On Thursday, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers suddenly called for a nationwide strike after the federal government instructed Canada Post to end home delivery and close some rural mail outlets. Those instructions are part of a modernization plan that Ottawa says will allow Canada Post to stabilize its finances and ensure its survival. The Crown Corporation is on track to lose $1.5 billion in 2025. Shortly after Ottawa announced the reforms, Canada Post said it was, quote, reassessing an offer it had planned to make the Canadian Union of Postal Workers and would present a revised version to workers when ready. Canada Post was given 45 days to submit a cost savings plan to the federal government. Hamilton said, quote, "We're now working on that, and the plans will be shared with Public Works Minister Joel Lightbound, who's responsible for the file." Quote, "Then I'm assuming we'll be making those public and explaining what that change is going to look like," Hamilton added. Lightbound estimated on Thursday that the switch from door-to-door delivery to community mailboxes will likely take close to a decade, though many people will see changes much sooner. In an interview on Rosemary Barton Live that aired Sunday, CUPW negotiator Jim Gallant said he thinks Canada Post's management is, quote, "awful," and the federal government's recommended reforms are actually ideas from the Crown Corporation. Quote, "Canada Post came with these suggestions," Gallant said. "We've been negotiating on and off for the best of 2 years, and those are the things that Canada Post wanted." Asked whether he was suggesting Ottawa was taking orders from Canada Post and not making an independent decision, Gallant said, "I am saying that. And Canadians should decide what Canada Post is and how it goes through the future." Gallant also pushed back on statements from Canada Post and Lightbound that the mail carrier was effectively insolvent. Quote, "There's no such thing," Gallant said. "Are the RCMP insolvent? Are the armed forces insolvent? It's not the truth. Government can't be insolvent." So basically, the union is saying that because Canada Post is a crown corporation, that therefore government has access to, all intents and purposes, at least, to unlimited money. It's not really unlimited money, but can find the money if it really needs to, and it's a service, just like the RCMP, just like the armed forces. That there's no way the Canada Post can actually be insolvent. It's just that the government doesn't want to. Um, Yes, uh, but you also can't afford to have the armed forces only operating 2 or 3 of the days of the week, nor the RCMP. Mail delivery? Mm, mm. you know, that's it's important. It's a vital service. Is it an everyday service? Mm, maybe not. Nancy Peckford, mayor of North Grenville, Ontario, told Barton her community of about 20,000 people has a heavy reliance on Canada Post and that we support the strike, but it's going to be tough for our community, there's no doubt. If North Grenville's post office is shut down as part of the reforms, Peckford said it would be a devastating development because the post office is also a hub where people can connect. Quote, "While we know we're growing, and in fact, Canada Post has expanded its service in the municipality by virtue of our growth, it would be very sad and quite disruptive to see the disappearance of our local post office. I think it's incumbent upon Canada Post now, given where they're at, to really engage strategically with municipalities so that we can share our perspective and they can hear directly from the clients that they serve." So, yeah, that's sort of the overall situation. According to Sean Boyton of Global News, this is how the current strike will affect uh, your mail from passports to checks. Canada Post workers have walked off the job, halting the flow of mail with almost no notice to Canadians that a strike was imminent. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers has been in a legal strike position since May, but had opted instead for bans on overtime and delivering business flyers to try and pressure Canada Post while minimizing service disruptions. That strategy changed after the federal government announced delivery service changes to the national mail carrier on Thursday, which the union said forced our hand and let it declare a nationwide strike. Here's how the strike can affect you and what you need to know. Canada Post says letter mail and parcels will not be processed or delivered for the duration of the national strike, and some post offices will be closed. Quote, "Unfortunately, we cannot retrieve items from the postal system at this time," a spokesperson said in its latest statement Friday. Service guarantees are suspended for items already in the postal network, and no new items will be accepted until the national disruption is over, the Postal Service said. Quote, "All mail and parcels in the postal network have been secured and will be delivered on a first in, first out basis once operations resume," Canada Post said, but added that a national strike of any length means service will be impacted well after the strike activity ends. Processing and delivery will be challenged going forward due to the impacts of the strike, Canada Post said. The federal government released an information page on Friday noting there may be some delays in passport deliveries. Applicants will still be able to get their passports during the strike. People who have not yet applied for a passport are encouraged to use couriers other than Canada Post if applying by mail, or otherwise visit their nearest passport office or Service Canada location. The strike will not affect application processing, the government said, and passports will be delivered using another courier. Passports stuck in Canada Post mail will continue to be held until the strike ends. Those who need their passport urgently can contact Service Canada by phone or in person to be transferred to pickup service, which is not impacted by the strike and will need to show proof of upcoming travel. Additional fees may be needed. Canada Post says the CUPW has agreed to continue the delivery of socioeconomic checks during the labor disruption. The Postal Service says this will ensure government financial assistance typically delivered by mail will reach seniors and other Canadians. Payments from the Canada Pension Plan, Old Age Security, and the Canada Child Tax Benefit are among those that will still be delivered. Many of Canada's major banks have messages on their website reminding anyone who receives statements and bills through the mail that they can access those documents or make payments on the bank's website. Several have encouraged anyone needing a new debit or credit card to visit a branch. Canada Post says it has a process in place to ensure live animal shipments already placed continue during the labor disruption, but no further ones will be accepted. Couriers like Purelator or FedEx say that they have plans in place to handle higher volumes of parcels and other mail during the Canada Post strike. Quote, FedEx hopes an early resolution is reached between Canada Post and the union, a spokesperson said. In light of the disruption at Canada Post, FedEx has implemented a comprehensive contingency plan to help ensure seamless service. Purelator, which is majority owned by Canada Post, says it is fully operational and is not canceling any deliveries. However, it will not process any Canada Post labeled shipments or freight during the course of the strike. Quote, Purelator continuously evaluates industry activity and shifts in the market to ensure we are prepared for potential impacts, a spokesperson said. Our teams have been developing robust contingency plans and we are prepared to deliver service excellence for our existing customers. Should we experience any disruptions in our network, we will prioritize Purelator Express and healthcare deliveries. Amazon says Canada Post only delivers a small percentage of Amazon customer orders and returns and will contact any customers facing delays. Quote, we are monitoring the situation closely and are taking measures to minimize potential customer impact, the company said in a statement. Customers are encouraged to use alternative couriers to process the returns, including Purelator and return partners like Staples. Those who use P.O. boxes are being urged to switch to door delivery service provided by those other couriers or use Amazon's pickup point service. So that's what I have for you with regard to the Canada Strike Post. A little bit of news that you can use and a little quick overview of what happened there to let you know what's going on and how it came about. But yes, indeed, it seems that there's a time where some really tough decisions are going to have to be made. And I'm not, even though I do personally support the workers, I'm not sure strategically and tactically how many moves that they actually have left and whether these moves are necessarily the best ones. There are many situations where this type of strike action may cause people to adopt new behaviors with regard to shipping and mailing things. And, well, not so much mailing things, but getting content or information that had been mailed to people in other ways and could result in possibly permanent changes to the amount of market share that is available for Canada Post once it emerges from this strike action and thus for the workers as well. So, nobody's in a good position here. And I'm not sure many people have many plays. I think it's just all the players involved in this game maybe having to face some hard truths that it's not business as usual anymore, and that um, the can has been kicked down the road as far as it can be before decisions need to be taken place, and that maybe that some of the typical plays that are available to certain sides will now only cause to exacerbate the situation rather than creating a desired pressure uh, to reach a solution because those solutions um, may not be there or available anymore. Time for them may have already passed. But yeah, this is going to be an extremely difficult situation to resolve and untangle, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. So this could be some protracted action unless both uh, the employer and the unions can I don't want to say maybe have more realistic, uh, but there might need to be a more, um, how do we ensure that service, the best possible service, keeps on being provided focus versus, how do we, either the management or the union, look good with our various stakeholders, primary focus. Um, I don't know what the solution is, and I definitely understand the position that it's a service, and the service is necessary and therefore can't be insolvent. But a service that is running at a rate that it's losing $1.5 billion a year as well is also not acceptable. So, like I said, I'm not sure where the solution lies on this one, but hopefully, mm, mine's much better than mine, are on the subject, are on the topic, or on the task, and that there are enough people of goodwill all around the table. Um, Perhaps more open to the idea that more than tinkering will be needed in this particular instance. Uh, It seems that this is a time now where tough decisions can't be delayed any longer, and it might be a much more uh, eyes wide open type situation uh, with less opportunity for posturing or the typical posturing that would happen in this type of situation. But there'll be more to come over the next days and weeks on this story, I'm sure. At the moment, we're still going to be waiting for Canada Post to revise its offer, given the new situations, and then see how the postal workers react to that. So that's probably going to be the next step in this story, as we are waiting for those developments to transpire. All right, kits and cubs, let's move on to another little topic. There was some economic news that came out on Friday for Canada with regard to GDP numbers that were going to be made available. And it seems that, as predicted, that Canada's GDP has rebounded in the month of July after having contracted for 3 months, this according to the Thomson Reuters news service. Canada's monthly gross domestic product rebounded from 3 months of contraction to grow by 0.2% in July, as mining, manufacturing, and wholesale trade boosted growth, data showed on Friday. Canada's GDP had shrunk in the second quarter by 1.6% annualized, and economists were closely tracking the July GDP growth figure to get an indication of whether there will be a contraction in the third quarter. The main reason for that, of course, is because the classic definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of contraction. So we've got one. Technically, we're halfway there. If the second one would be the same, then one could officially say that that is the case. But as when we presented the data for 1.6, that indicated that the data GDP had shrunk in the second quarter by 1.6% annualized, uh, the early data for July was indicating that there would be that would come in on the plus side, and it seems that that is indeed taken place. Um, a preliminary estimate showed August would most likely see no growth but would avoid a contraction, Statistics Canada said, as increases in services producing industries were likely to be offset by goods producing sectors. The advance estimate is not always accurate and could change. Analysts polled by Reuters had forecasted GDP growth of 0.1% in July, up from a 0.1% contraction in June. We got 0.2%, so it was actually better than expected numbers, which also helps to build a little bit of a buffer should August contract by a little as well, rather than come in flat. The Canadian economy continues to hang in there, suggesting no increased urgency for the Bank of Canada to cut rates. Still, underlying softness in the economy will likely drive further easing, wrote Benjamin Reitzes, Managing Director, Canadian Rates and Macro Strategist at the Bank of Montreal. BMO is forecasting a pause in October, followed by 25 basis point rate cuts at the December and March meetings. So that's what we're looking at here. And over here, kits and cubs, hopefully, if the screen will work and let me show you this without too much delay. There's a graph in the story with our GDP numbers that you can look at. Hopefully it's appearing on screen for you right now at the moment. I have a bit of a delay on my end, and there it is. I see it on my screen now. And as you can see here, we had these 3 months of contractions, which were getting smaller and smaller and smaller, fortunately here. And then the 0.2% increase here. More contractions recently since about November 24. We've had 5 since then. So 5 contractions and 4 numbers to the upside since November 2024, which is when we had our first contraction since March 2024. So this is the monthly GDP change here in Canada, according to Statistics Canada. So just wanted to show you that visually, so you can take a look at that. So it's a decent turnaround month to month. It's basically a 0.3% increase, a turnaround. So after 3 consecutive months of contraction, and it's the highest, because when we had a growth in March 2025, it was 0.2 as well. This one is slightly more, so I'm guessing there's like 0.22 or something like that, or a couple of extra decimals here that are a little higher. But also our third highest recording since our second highest recording, sorry, since November 2024. So relatively strong month for us here. Canada's economic growth hobbled in the last few months after a strong start this year as a barrage of U.S. tariffs buffeted critical sectors of the economy. The Bank of Canada has said that trade disruptions and tariffs have significantly hit key sectors, forcing business investments down, and there were chances that malaise might spill over to other sectors in the coming months. The growth in July was primarily driven by goods-producing industries, which contribute roughly a quarter to the monthly GDP. This sector grew by 0.6% for the first time in 4 months. The biggest contribution to growth came from mining, quarrying, and oil and gas extraction, which registered a bump in growth of 1.4%. The manufacturing sector, which is heavily exposed to U.S. tariffs and contributes up to a tenth of GDP, grew by 0.7%, registering the second fastest growth. The services producing sector, which accounts for 3/4 of the monthly GDP, was less impressive with a growth of 0.1%, helped by wholesale trade and transportation and warehousing, both of which grew by 0.6%. The growth in the transportation and warehousing sector, which had contracted by 0.7% in the prior month, was driven to a 2.8% increase in pipeline transportation, marking its largest growth since September 2022, Statistics Canada said. Real estate and rental and leasing grew by 0.3% in July, posting a new record high for the second month in a row, the agency said, adding that the growth in July was driven by higher activity at the offices of the real estate agents and brokers. The biggest drop was seen in retail trade, which shrank by 1% in July after solid growth the prior month. So yes, some positive economic data here. And hopefully this will continue over the quarter so that we do not meet that technical definition of recession, which is 2 consecutive quarters with a negative growth. So first quarter of the year was positive, second quarter negative, and third quarter, at least starting out with the first numbers from July, starting out in a more positive note, and hopefully that will continue for August and September when that data comes in. All right, moving on, kids and cubs. Let's see, what else do we have for you today here? Yes, this is a story that I had up the other day and wasn't able to bring to you because we had run out of time. But this was from September 20th. Raymond from CTV says there were 2 people who were arrested for mischief during a protest against the Carney government on Parliament Hill recently. Ottawa Police Service say 2 people were arrested for mischief following a protest on Parliament Hill that took place a week ago Saturday. Protesters from Ottawa and Gatineau converged in the capital to call on the Carney government to prioritize human rights and reverse course on planned cuts to jobs and public services. The Draw the Line protest brought together climate justice, migrant justice, Indigenous justice, labor rights, anti-war and Palestine solidarity groups on Wellington Street outside the Prime Minister's office. If I'm not, yes, I was just going to say, I think it was a national rally because I saw some posters for that rally, and somebody had handed me a flyer at one point walking down the street here at home here in Kingston. Similar marches have been organized for cities and towns across Canada, including Vancouver, Edmonton, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, and Charlottetown. The rally in Ottawa marched from Parliament Hill to the U.S. Embassy and then to the Human Rights Monument on Elgin Street. Quote, it started out as a climate rally, but we realized that we need to build a much larger coalition. So it's about bringing in people who are standing in solidarity with Palestine, people who are standing up for peace in the face of a potential quadrupling of military spending, said Drew Jay, the executive director of the Council of Canadians. Quote, it's about cuts to public services and opposing the austerity agenda that's been announced. And it's about migrant justice, so the idea is to build a coalition of all the groups working on those different issues to stand in unison. The demonstration also involved painting a large mural in front of the Prime Minister's office that said, People, Peace, Planet, Not Profit. Organizers said the paint being used is washable. Police said Saturday afternoon that 2 people were arrested and Wellington Street would need to be remained closed for cleanup. Ottawa Police announced, this is according to their Twitter feed here. It says, attending a demonstration in Ottawa, freedom of expression has reasonable limits to protect citizens, property, and businesses from disruptive or unlawful activities. And then it later on posted another tweet that said, road closure. Wellington Street must remain closed until later this afternoon to facilitate the cleanup of paint left by demonstrators. 2 people were arrested for mischief. Reminder, threats of violence, property destruction, or unlawful conduct are not protected under the law. Quote, despite clashes with police and 2 activists being detained, spirits remained high and a human barrier formed to allow the painting to continue, organizers said in a news release Saturday afternoon. Roads reopened downtown to regular traffic around 5:15 p.m. Protest organizers say the event is coinciding with the newest parliamentary session and ahead of the fall budget to oppose measures put forward by Prime Minister Mark Carney, including the planned spending cuts in the federal public service, the shelving of the digital services tax, and bills including C2 and C5. Protesters are also opposed to Canada's response in the face of Israel's military campaign in Gaza, which the United States Commission of Inquiry this week, or last week I should say, said is a genocide. Quote, people across movements are uniting to say enough, said Sarah Washburn, one of the Ottawa Gatineau March organizers with Fridays for Future Ottawa, in a news release. Quote, we refuse austerity, colonialism, climate destruction, and militarism, and we demand a future where people can come before profit. Key demands at Saturday's protest included increasing taxes on the ultra-rich and ending corporate subsidies, particularly for the fossil fuel industry, upholding Indigenous rights and sovereignty, imposing a 2-way arms embargo on Israel, canceling planned increases to military spending, canceling planned public service spendings and job cuts, and providing permanent resident status for all migrants. Quote, Indigenous peoples across so-called Canada are no strangers to colonial fossil fuel bureaucracy, and after a few short months, Mark Carney has shown he is following suit. In his bid to protect Canadian nationalism and corporate interests at all costs, Indigenous peoples and territories are once again expendable in the name of natural resource extraction, said Serena Mendizabal, managing director at Sacred Earth, an Indigenous women-led organization. Quote, as migrants, workers, and everyday people also face different expressions of capitalism, colonialism, genocide, and imperialism, now is the time to bring our minds together as one in pursuit of the future we deserve. Bill C2 relates to border security and would give authorities new powers to search mail, facilitate police access to personal information, and make it easier for officials to pause or cancel immigration applications. Bill C5 is intended to speed up approvals for major projects and strengthen the Canadian economy in the face of U.S. tariffs, but Indigenous and environmental groups said it could undermine Indigenous rights and sidestep environmental protections. One of Carney's first acts as Prime Minister after being sworn in following Justin Trudeau's resignation was to cancel the carbon tax. He later canceled the digital services tax that would have imposed levies on U.S. tech giants like Amazon, Google, and Meta, a move Carney said was part of negotiations with the U.S., but which drew comments of caving to President Trump from the White House. Proposed cuts to the federal public service aiming to find $25 billion in savings over the next 3 years have faced stark opposition, particularly in Ottawa, where the federal government is the largest employer. At the same time, the Prime Minister committed to boosting military spending, pledging to hit a target of 5% of the national GDP by 2035. Meanwhile, the Carney government has taken a more critical tone against Israel, most recently calling the escalation of bombing in Gaza City, quote, horrific, and calling on Israel to adhere to international law. And then, of course, there was the recognition of Palestinian statehood at the UN General Assembly just last week. But critics are opposed to the condition of demilitarization of a Palestinian state. So that happened over last week. Like I said, a big national march. Like I said, a couple of arrests for mischief, but it doesn't seem to be mischief with anything violent. I'm not sure if the mischief was the painting itself, in terms of um, quote unquote creating damage to a building, but if the paint was washable, then I'm not sure how much damage there technically could have been there. So maybe those mischief charges are related to maybe a couple of other things. Might have been just two people who independently decided to get a little more unruly. Who knows? There wasn't much detail in the article with regard to uh, what type of mischief, unfortunately, because that's information that's rather important. Last week, we brought you news very briefly about an MPP in the Ontario legislature named Chris Scott, who had been booted from caucus after um, he allegedly had been arrested for assault with a weapon. According to Sudbury.com on September 23rd, there was a little more additional information as opposed to this. According to Kenneth Armstrong, it said MPP Chris Scott has been charged with assault and assault with a weapon. Premier Doug Ford's office informed the media Monday morning that the rookie Sault Ste. Marie MPP is no longer a member of the governing caucus, but did not give a reason why. Soon afterwards, at a press conference in Russell, Ontario, Ford said he'd only just been informed about Scott on his way to the event. No longer be sitting with our caucus, and if I can ask you, you can ask Chris the Scott the reason why. I would go to the Sioux Police, Ford said. I was informed literally in the parking lot as we were going through here, go to the Sault Ste. Police. And then, of course, the laughable line that he doesn't want to interfere in a police investigation, which, of course, if you saw the show, I started giggling immediately after I read that, because that's just not a credible statement from Doug Ford. It's just not. While Scott has been ejected from the Progressive Conservative Caucus, that does not remove him from his seat, as he remains an MPP. After Sioux today broke the news of the charges against Scott, the NDP issued a statement calling on him to resign. Scott was arrested by Toronto Police Service following an investigation by the Sault Ste. Marie Police Service, the latter said in a statement. And this is the new bit of information here. According to information filed with the court, Scott is accused of assaulting his wife on Friday in Sault Ste. Marie. The alleged weapon was a high chair. Okay. He was in custody when he appeared in bail court in Sault Ste. Marie by phone on Monday morning, Sioux Today reported. Toronto-based criminal defense lawyer Michael Lacey represented Scott, who was released on bail. He is not to be in contact with or within 100 meters of the alleged victim, and he is prohibited from possessing weapons. A publication ban prevents the disclosure of much of the information presented during the Monday bail hearing. None of the allegations have been tested in court, and Scott is considered innocent until proven guilty. Scott bested the NDP's Lisa Vizzo-Allen by 118 votes in the 2025 provincial election, the tightest race the riding has seen since 1905. He was parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Energy and Mines, Stephen Lecce. Scott, originally from Kemptville, Ontario, worked for former Sioux PC MPP Ross Romano and in Ford's premier's office before running for office himself. And a media announcement planned for Monday afternoon, and again, you can't get more irony here. A media announcement planned for Monday afternoon with Scott at the Thrive Child Development Center was canceled. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to commit assault, that probably would be canceled. But assault with a high chair, of all things, when you're supposed to make an announcement at the Thrive Child Development Center. Uh, pr- Probably not. Uh, Not good. A couple days later, also from SueToday.com, Brandon Walker. Um, says here, it's been 4 days since MPP Chris Scott was accused of assaulting his wife, and he still hasn't responded to interview requests from Sue Today or issued a public statement to constituents of Sault Ste. Marie. Scott was arrested on Sunday night by Toronto police, again, a week ago Sunday, by Toronto police after his wife filed a complaint with the Sioux Police Service, which charged the rookie MPP with assault with a weapon and assault. His wife alleges Scott committed an assault using a high chair as a weapon. Quote, silence often speaks louder than words, said Wojtek Dabrowski, managing partner at Sovereign Advisory Incorporated, a strategic communications consulting firm based in Toronto. Quote, when you refuse to say anything at all, even when you're constrained, given that there's an active police investigation, you're not doing yourself any favors by staying silent. Quote, what ends up happening is the story, the narrative rolls on without you participating, and it's filled by other voices, people like me, he said. Third-party experts will not be as favorable to your position as you yourself would be with the statement, Dabrowski said, adding that the police investigation and upcoming court case would make it a challenge regarding what Scott could say. Quote, you don't want to say anything in public. Sorry, the screen moved because an ad popped up here. So I need to find my line again because it moved. You don't want to say anything in public that will harm your legal defense, Dabrowski added. So to some extent, his silence is understandable. But at a minimum, you would typically see the legal counsel representing the person come out and say something like, my client is cooperating with police, or that he or she looks forward to their day in court. Alternatively, if the person plans to plead not guilty and believes the charges are false, you would have your lawyer come out and say, my client is going to defend themselves in court and believes that these charges are false and that he's not guilty. But when you have silence, you sort of leave everything open to other voices that will enter the conversation to fill the void. And as they say, that's not really helpful to your position. Toronto-based lawyer Michael Lacey, who is representing Scott, has not responded to an interview request or to questions sent via email. Scott was released on $5,000 bail. Reached by the Sioux Star on Monday, Scott called the charges, quote, baseless and said he plans to say more in time. Quote, I need to collect my thoughts and process what's happened during the worst day of my life, he said. I just walked out of there 10 minutes ago. I'll have more to say in the near future. Dabrowski said Scott should release a statement at the most, and the most impactful way for him to do this would be by holding a media conference where he reads what he wants to say. Quote, we don't know the facts yet, so we don't know his position on it. Scott would read his statement and then probably walk away, Dabrowski said, because his lawyer wouldn't allow him to take questions. A statement issued by Scott's office without a public appearance would be less impactful, quote, because you're not out there in the flesh with your voice addressing the situation, he said. Dabrowski wasn't sure if Scott would be able to recover his reputation with this looming court case. Quote, it all comes down to the outcome of the case. I have a hard time imagining him being reelected or even being able to stand for reelection if he's found guilty, he said. According to Section 750 of the Criminal Code of Canada, if an elected official or public employee is convicted of an indictable offense and sentenced to 2 years or more in prison, the office or employment forthwith becomes vacant. Scott's charges, assault and assault with a weapon, carry maximum penalties of 5 and 10 years respectively. While Dabrowski doesn't feel Scott has handled the situation very well, he said Premier Doug Ford did the right thing by expelling the 35-year-old from his caucus on Monday morning. Quote, Doug Ford acted immediately and decisively to remove him from caucus, so I'd give full marks to the party leadership. Indeed. On this point, have to give him to that. Scott will return to court on October 22nd. None of the allegations have been tested in court, and Scott is considered innocent until proven guilty. Although his website is now offline, the note taped to Scott's office door in the Sioux said constituents who need assistance can call 705-949-6959 or email chris.scott@pc.ola.org. Again, I'll give the number in case there are some audience members from that area. If you need assistance and you're a constituent in MPP Chris Scott's riding, you can call 705-949-6959 or email chris.scott@pc.ola.org. There you go. So a little bit of an update on that story for you, kids and cubs. Lots of interesting things happening. Oh boy. Also, kids and cubs, over the course of the weekend, as we had teased last week, NDP MP Heather McPherson had teased that she had an important announcement coming out on the 28th. And as we had suspected, it was her announcing that she was definitely in leadership. According to David Thurton of CBC News, Heather McPherson entered the NDP leadership supporters that she intends to unite her party and lead them out of their worst federal election performance ever. McPherson is the second major name to publicly announce they're running after former leader Jagmeet Singh resigned following the April election results. Joining her is activist and well-known journalist Avi Lewis, who launched his campaign a little over a week ago. Also in the race, there's a Quebec activist and author named Yves Engler, and someone else named John Ashton, who I'm a little less familiar with. I only heard his name last week for the first time. And I don't yet know much about him, but in a news report that I heard last night before going to bed, it seems that the four are considered official as wanting to enter the race. Now, I don't think any of them have submitted their documents yet, and they've had the the board that's going to be reviewing the applications uh, actually approve them and say that they've got all the signatures and that they've met the first thresholds, whatever they may be. So at the moment, for all four of them, these are declared intentions to run, but they have not. None of them, I think, have been deemed yet officially a candidate by the race organizers at the moment. While McPherson may not have the same recognition as Lewis, she assumes unofficial frontrunner status as she is the only candidate who currently holds a seat in the House of Commons. Uh, I'm not sure about that. Avi Lewis has so much more name recognition, and again, since he's announced, he's been picking up a lot of media. So again, my idea or my thought that he, without being Pierre Polyev as anti-charismatic as Pierre Polyev, he is trying to adopt a similar type of strategy. A big announcement, very glossy, attention-getting, and then being all over in as many places as people can see him, particularly in the few days that he had between the time he announced and Heather McPherson announced. He had a couple of days of fully clear runway to go out and generate as much media as possible and sort of set the tone for the leadership and campaign, and perhaps present himself as the undeniable candidate, given his name recognition and the level of professionalism and um, and the level of presence of his campaign compared to that of other candidates. But yes, uh, definitely in terms of status within the party and the movement, in terms of position they currently hold, Heather McPherson is definitely the highest ranking. I'm just not sure that, despite that, that um, is a bigger advantage than the name recognition from Mr. Lewis itself. Rob Ashton, one of the other candidates, is also among the leadership candidates listed on the Elections Canada website, as is political activist Yves Engler, who announced he's planning on running as well. The Edmonton Strathcona MP chose to launch her campaign in her electoral district, focusing on a new vision for a federal New Democratic Party that's a big political family. CBC News obtained an early copy of her speech. Sorry, I'm going to take care of some dry beaver here. McPherson began the speech by speaking about her roots, including her stay-at-home mom and truck driver dad, and their loud and chaotic family dinners where no one was turned away. To make a seat for everyone inside their home, she recalled how they would, quote, take the doors off the hinges and turn them into makeshift tables. Inclusion was a running theme throughout McPherson's speech, which noted the current atmosphere of fractured communities and divisive politics. McPherson said she is running to bring people together. Though it didn't outline any new policy direction the party might take under her leadership, that's not great. McPherson's speech reiterated her commitment to fight for fair wages that rise with the cost of living, as well as affordable housing, cutting grocery prices, and public health care and education. For years, McPherson has served as the NDP's foreign policy critic, a record she referred to in her speech, mentioning how she fought for justice in, quote, Ukraine and Palestine. She said she'd taken on those and other battles, quote, out of belief in fairness, which she noted also meant, quote, condemning genocide wherever we see it. Former Alberta Premier Rachel Notley was on hand to lend her support. Quote, I've been in rooms with Heather where people were frustrated, they were divided, and the issues were complex, and where the easy thing would have been to fake a phone call and duck out of the room, Notley said. But she doesn't do that. She never does that. She listens, she rolls up her sleeves, she does the hard work, and my friends, that is the kind of leadership we need right now in our party and in our country. McPherson alluded to Prime Minister Mark Carney in her speech, calling him a conservative prime minister in a liberal jersey. I'm not sure that that's an insult in the eyes of Canadians at the moment. Of course, a lot of Canadians would add the word progressive to before conservative, and that description that McPherson is putting out. But it is for the diehard NDP base. Again, the liberal Tory, same old Tory story trope is one that is powerful, even though I'm not sure it particularly applies in the current case. I think we would be very hard pressed to suggest in any way, shape, or form that Mark Carney is equivalent to Pierre Poilievre. I'm not sure how effective that is, but yes, it is very clear that our prime minister definitely has at least more progressive conservative leanings than did Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and that is a place where contrast had been made, but it perhaps needs to be made with a little more nuance and a little less caricature. But she name-checked Conservative leaders several times, including Alberta's Premier and the federal opposition leader. Danielle Smith, Pierre Poilievre, and others across the political spectrum thrive on division. They turn politics into an us versus them, a rural versus urban, workers versus the environment, McPherson said. We don't grow by pushing people out. We grow by bringing people together. Notley said the same, noting she thinks Smith is playing political games with our national unity and our future. Quote, like so many of the best NDP leaders before her, Heather speaks truth to power. She challenges the status quo and she challenges those who would have us believe the lie that Canada is somehow broken, Notley said. She knows that Canada is worth fighting for and she will never back down from that fight. So the things are why I know Heather will grow our movement. She will grow our party. She will build it. She'll connect with people across the country and remind Canadians who we are and what we will do. McPherson also said the recent election should remind the NDP movement that it needs to do better, referring to candidates who were defeated in the last election, like former Edmonton MP Blake Desjardins and Edmonton Centre candidate Tricia Estabrooks, saying they should be sitting in the House of Commons on the NDP benches. Quote, we need to change, she said. Not what we believe, but how we talk about it and who we talk to. Early on in her speech, McPherson noted that the party needs to be inspired again by the big ideas that drove successful NDP leaders like Tommy Douglas and Jack Layton, as opposed to, quote, shrinking into some sort of purity test and pushing people away. Quote, we need to stop pushing people away. We need to invite people in. We need to have more people at the table and we need to listen to them, she said, noting the key to building a winning campaign was, quote, in communities, not in backrooms in Ottawa. She called for, quote, more resources for the grassroots, saying the party needs to, quote, invest in our members and trust our base again. McPherson ended the speech by saying an election, quote, could come as early as this spring and noted the party needs a leader who is ready to campaign and organize. So there we go. Some big announcements there. Hopefully, I will be able to find some video of that announcement at some point and bring you a clip from it because I'm sure she said more than just this. But yeah, we have 4 candidates in the race at the moment. Again, provisional declarations of intent, given that the party hasn't made officialized anything yet. But 4 in the race. Will there be more? We don't know yet. There could definitely be the opportunity for some. The race is pretty much wide open. So if anybody wanted to take a chance, either at the leadership or as a manner of saying, "Ta-da, here I am," and gain a national profile relatively rapidly to see if they can play a future bigger role in the party. Because some people run for that purpose as well, right? Some people run to lead, and some people say, they throw their hat in the ring, and they might know that they have very little chance of winning the whole thing. But if it's an opportunity to present yourself on the national stage and happily do a good job and present yourself very well, it could be an opportunity to start building some national profile that leads to more opportunities, especially for someone who's more ambitious or is looking to take on a greater responsibility. So there are many reasons for running in the leadership race, and winning the entire race is not necessarily the only one. So we could see more names come up. There's still a lot of time here for people to throw their name in, and for the party to do the work to revise the applications. So, well, we'll keep an eye on that at the moment. And of course, Kits and Cubs, as we mentioned on a previous show, we are talking to one of the four candidates about trying to get them as a guest on the show, and being able to have a conversation about, their plans, their priorities, and their motivations for entering the race. All right. I believe I had a couple of other things for you here, maybe at least one more. According to the Halifax Chronicle Herald, and this was a while ago, it's on September 16th, because I meant to bring it to you, and then there was just sort of like no natural opportunity because I couldn't really fit it into any of the other themes. But as you know, the Prime Minister had announced the Build Canada Homes project. Coming in the office with that was going to be headed by Anna Balau, I believe, former candidate for the mayorship of the city of Toronto. And soon after uh, the funding was announced, they had announced one of the first projects that would benefit like some more like, and not just saying like we have projects in four cities or four or five cities. They announced the four or five municipalities, but they announced like a specific project. So this is according to Jen Taplin, but it seems here that Shannon Park in the area joined a small and exclusive club last week. It was one of six national housing projects Prime Minister Mark Carney included for the initial rollout of a 13 billion Build Canada Homes initiative, which was launched Sunday, I'm going to guess 2 weeks ago, Sunday here. It's a new federal entity created to build and finance affordable housing defined as a monthly rent or mortgage being no more than 30% of pre-tax household income. Quote, I think it provides horsepower to start sooner and move more quickly, said Dartmouth Coal Harbour MP Darren Fisher in an interview on Monday. For a start, 4,000 factory-built homes will be built on federal lands managed by Canada Lands Company in Shannon Park, as well as Longueuil, Quebec, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Ottawa, and Toronto. The latest plan for Shannon Park, which is owned by CLC, so the Canadians company, is for 3,000 units and a minimum of 20% dedicated as affordable housing. In April, the province purchased two parcels of land in Shannon Park from CLC and expects 600 affordable units will be built there. Fisher said his expectation is that this is still the plan, and he doesn't know that if that 3,000 unit number will change under Build Canada Homes. A senior federal government official told Postmedia that construction is likely expected to start in 2026 on those six sites, but it could take years after that before the first tenants or homeowners will be able to move into those new affordable homes. Fisher said they're pushing for and hoping for a 2026 start in Shannon Park. He called it a huge deal and a generational opportunity for the community to add affordable housing in HRM. It's needed fast, especially considering that next door to Shannon Park, construction crews are pulling down affordable units in another former military housing neighborhood, Ocean Breeze, to make room for at-market housing. It will help, but it won't make a significant dent to narrow the housing gap in HRM, said Trish McCourt, executive director of the Nova Scotia Nonprofit Housing Association. According to a 2023 Sorry. According to a 2023 housing needs report, projections show the municipality will need 52,050 new units by 2027 and 77,100 by 2032. As exciting as it is to have new housing built in Dartmouth, the numbers are not likely to be enough to meet the needs, she said. The other piece being we need housing outside of Halifax municipality as well, and we hope there's going to be a way that Build Canada Homes can meet those needs too. McCourt said using modular factory-built homes is the right approach, getting people into homes as quickly as possible, but she hopes Nova Scotia companies are contracted to provide them. Nonprofit and cooperative housing are really it when it comes to providing affordability in perpetuity, she said, so nonprofits need to be involved from the get-go. The fact that they're focusing on non-market solutions should mean that nonprofits are going to be part of the solution. Several nonprofits are ready and willing to make something happen at Shannon Park. One of them is Rooted, a nonprofit developer, owner, and operator of mixed income housing in Dartmouth. While they're interested in operating affordable housing there, they're hoping that land leases will be an option instead of having to buy the land, which is tough on a nonprofit's budget, said Dylan Ward, Director of Development for Rooted and also member of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee on the Shannon Park lands. We're still gathering information on what it looks like, he said, adding that he sees this development as the next downtown of Dartmouth. I think we need all the units we can get, and if it's community led, that's best. Canada Lands Company, a self-financing federal crown corporation, acquired the entirety of the 35-hectare Shannon Park in 2014 from the Department of National Defence. The idea of building a community stadium for a Canadian Football League was proposed and failed. In 2023, Canada Lands Company finally finalized a development agreement with HRM, and the redevelopment plan submitted to HRM for review in 2024 outlined the plan for 3,000 units with a minimum of 20% of the units dedicated as affordable housing. It's on CLC to provide the community. Sorry, I have something stuck in my throat here. It's on CLC to provide the community infrastructure, including necessary services like sewer and water, streets and sidewalks, and it will then sell the land to nonprofit and private sector building partners. The adjacent lands are owned by the Millbrook First Nation, and the CLC has said they are working together to create a cohesive development. So that is very interesting in that one of the first projects that has some more detail to it than just the city have been announced, um, which is said it's very good. I think I mentioned on a previous show that saying that if I was the government, I would be trying to flood the zone with announcements on a regular basis. So that announcing the launch of Built Canada Homes on the 14th, for example, and then on the 16th, having this saying, oh, not only did we just announce the city? No, there's going to be like 3,000 units here on this particular parcel of land and all that. So these types of announcements are very, very important because, as you know, Pierre Poilievre's go-to is, oh, well, it's just a list. It's just an announcement. Nothing's built yet. There are no shovels yet. It's not real. So by being able to quickly follow up with some of these announcements of the projects, and hopefully there'll be announcements staggered over the coming weeks on what plots of land and what they will be doing in the other 5 communities that have been set aside as the office builds and staffs up and makes other decisions for itself as to what's going to happen. But this is indeed a very positive development that shows that it's more than just words, that there actually are parcel of lands and actually true plans to start building some things there. All right, kits and cubs, let me take one more look to see if there's anything else out here that I wanted to bring to you today. Let's see, we had GDP numbers and Canada Post stuff, the housing announcement, Heather McPherson joining the NDP race. That's what I said. It was sort of a grab bag of stuff, stuff on Chris Scott as well. No particular one driving theme here in the show, but important things that still needed to be mentioned over the course of the episode. The only other thing that I have for you is that, of course, as you know, last week the Prime Minister had taken a trip to the UK, and not only so that he could watch the Canadian women rugby team perform so well in that final, but to also meet with various leaders to discuss things. I believe that this is the fourth time that the Prime Minister has met with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer since he became Prime Minister. But according to David Baxter of the Canadian Press, Prime Minister Mark Carney has returned to Ottawa after a trip to London that saw him meet with 4 other prime ministers and attend the Women's Rugby World Cup final. And they have a great picture here. So Canadian Press and National News Watch together. So I'm going to put it up here. It is Minister and, of course, his wife Diana Fox, who are talking to Asia Hogan Rochester after they won silver. So the Prime Minister wasn't just in the stands, but talking to the players, and that's why I kind of have that impression that hopefully that this is a sign that funding is not going to be an issue in the coming years for this absolutely spectacular team who has been doing this so proud. Carney says that his meetings with UK, Australian, Icelandic, and Spanish prime ministers on Friday is a necessary step in the government's goal of lessening Canada's economic reliance on the US. And one of the reasons I am bringing this to you is because when Prime Minister Carney announced that he was going, we had Pierre Poilievre complaining, Mark Carney is back on his taxpayer funded jet back to the UK for more photo ops. This would be a great opportunity for him to apologize for causing the British housing and inflation crises during his disastrous stint as that country's bank governor. Now he's doing the same to Canada. Um, Again, toxic, negative, um, and clearly with nothing positive to say in any way, shape, or form, and nothing helpful to contribute, which is absolutely um, par for the course for him, which has led to the Canadian government spending a lot of time uh, justifying the fact that Prime Minister Mark Carney is overseas a lot doing these things, and it kind of just for me, it's once again the conservatives claiming about the cost of just doing the damn job, right? So we have the United States telling us, hey, Canada, 51st state? No? Okay, then. Tariffs! And then Canada going, oh, I guess that means that maybe we need some new friends then. And then conservatives responding to all of this with, "How dare you go and spend time with these new friends that you're trying to make?" It's it's not serious. It's not serious. Conservatives, at least according to Pierre Poilievre, seem to believe in this land, this magical fairyland where you just step up in front of a podium and microphone and camera in your own country and just say, Canada is open for business. And then the business just comes. That you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to establish any relationships, you don't have to actually have to make new friends, you don't actually have to get to know anything about the future people with whom you're going to do business, that it's Canada that goes the government of Canada goes there and signs all the deals for the actual business rather than agreements and set up a legal framework and architecture for them to happen. That I remember. I'm still old enough to remember the days of Jacques Chrétien when he had these Team Canada missions where he went like to another country and then brought a whole bunch of business people, created the environment to facilitate. But it wasn't like the prime minister that was saying, "Okay, GM and and you, this company from Canada, you guys make a deal together." He would just bring people to an event where they were all together, used his public profile to create a draw where people would come and then say, "Okay, now you're all in the same room together. Let's see if you can make something happen." So, the prime minister has a certain convening power, right, that he can use, but it's not the prime minister to say, "Hey, you company X from country Y, you're going to do a deal with company A here from Canada. Go out and give me an announceable." It doesn't work that way, right? It's Canada goes to country X and says, "Hey, country X, do you think that we should maybe do more trade together?" Country X goes, "You know what? I think that might be a good idea given the world is changing." Okay, well, if people are going to do more business between different businesses are going to have more activity among them, maybe our two nations can do something to make that a little easier or to help introduce people to each other. You know what? I think that's a good idea. Let's sit down and hammer out that agreement. Right? These things kind of have to happen. So, yeah, the conservatives seem to believe that we can make new friends without spending any time with them or any time getting to know them. Yeah, just not serious in any way, shape, or form as an argument or as rhetoric here. While this trip did not see any new trade deals or formal announcements, Carney says that these face-to-face meetings are, quote, crucial to achieving Canada's economic and defence priorities. The Conservatives have been critical of Carney for frequent foreign trips, saying that they are not generating tangible outcomes, and the Prime Minister should be more focused on domestic issues like crime and affordability. Another thing on that is that Pierre Poilievre had recently given an interview, I think it was, where I think it was that disastrous one with Vashti Kapelos, but we didn't show you that particular moment. But he said like this: "I would be focusing on getting a tariff-free deal with the United States," and which, of course, made the whole entire country laugh because Pierre does not seem to have noticed that no country has been able to establish that yet. But he somehow believes that he has these magic powers that even Mark Carney, who's definitely more learned and knowledgeable and skilled in such matters than Pierre is, that Pierre has these magical skills that neither Mark Carney nor any other world leader has. And Pierre keeps on seeming to believe that there ever was a time where we had a 100% tariff-free deal with the United States, which never existed. The only way to get a tariff-free deal with the United States, if I remember correctly, according to Donald Trump, was to become the United States' allegedly cherished 51st state. Right? So Canada become the 51st state, and now you don't have to worry about any tariffs. I believe was to paraphrase what he said. So if Pierre Poilievre is standing in front of a microphone and to the press and saying, "I would seek a tariff-free deal," and the only tariff-free deal on the table is to become the 51st state, then isn't Pierre basically saying that he wants to show up and the awful office on his back, legs up, uh, belly exposed, and say, take us, Donald, make us your cherished 51st state. Because that's the only tariff-free deal that's on the table. And if Pierre says he would be seeking it, all I'm hearing is, I intend to cave. I intend to surrender. That's my policy. Again, it's just not serious. Carney met with infrastructure investors from Britain, Europe, Asia, and Australia Saturday morning, and he said he is looking at how Canada can better attract global capital. The Prime Minister, that was basically, uh, like I said, Canadian press, just the facts version on what happened there. So again, no major announceables, of course, which is going to make Polya very happy because then you can turn around and go, see, see, see. But again, if you have if you want to be taken credibly and have any sense about how these things happen, you don't just announce that you're open for business and that the deals start pouring in. Often it takes a little bit more work than that. And Pierre apparently does not seem like he wants to do that work. Unsurprising. Unsurprising. Tomorrow, Kits and Cubs, of course, will be the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But if you were looking for stuff going on in Parliament today, there isn't anything actually because Parliament, regular parliamentary business is effectively on pause until Wednesday afternoon, taking a pause to prepare for National Truth and Reconciliation Day, and then, of course, to market tomorrow. So there will be no question period or House sitting today and tomorrow, and everything will resume on Wednesday. So there you go, kids and cubs. That is all I have for you today on the show. We hope that you love listening to us, and we, uh, because we love making this for you. And Kit Saucy here, of course, putting in the chat the link to Kit Hughes' First Hugh of the Borg podcast there. I listened to it. It is very good, very highly recommended. So please, Kits and Cubs, support a member of our DAMFAM by clicking on that link, and let's help Kit Hughes' numbers grow as well. Because, again, very, very much loved guest on our show, and very happy that he is spreading his own wings and creating his own content now. And we are very happy to promote it. So thank you, Kit Saucy, for having done that in the chat. I love it. Oh, and I think he might have a second episode here, according to Kid Uncover. Don't forget to subscribe him. New episode up now. Hopefully, he's got a second one. He said he would be trying to put some out one a week, but then, of course, he's also starting a new job. He might have had some extra class preparation this week coming up. But yeah, lovely. I'm very much looking forward to it if he's got another one. So Kits and Cubs, please share our content and please share Kit Hughes content as well and include a little something of yourself in it when you do it. Because, of course, we do love reading the things that you do have to say about us, but mostly because you are influencers in your own circle and content that you share that has a little bit of yourself in it tends to be content that people would engage with a lot more than just a simple retweet. So we thank you for all your help with that. Now, Kids and Cubs, if you would like us to help you, we can do that. Absolutely, Kids and Cubs. And we can do that, especially if you're busy and on the go and are not able to watch our show on the YouTube channel sometimes because you're making things happen. So if that is the case, Kids and Cubs, please scan that QR code that has appeared or go to our pod page site. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click on subscribe, when you get there, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. So we become portable. You just put us in your ears and then you go and take on the day and keep abreast of what's going on in the world. It's a win-win. Now, Kids and Cubs, if you would like to help us, we would definitely appreciate your help. And you could do that by grabbing your e-surfboard and bringing yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where we have 3 buttons for you: like, share, and subscribe. Please click on them. It helps us with the algorithm when you do, and it also makes us very happy to see our numbers go up. And if you are watching on our YouTube channel, of course, we have memberships and we have our super chat function if you would like to support us financially. And we appreciate every single contribution. And of course, the comment section. Don't forget that. Let us know what you think. All right, Kids and Cubs. As well, if you would like to help us, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, and we would appreciate your help with that, especially since we're at the end of the month. Remember, a dry beaver, well, yes, a dry beaver is an unhappy beaver, and a moist beaver is a very happy beaver. So if you would like to do your best to keep your favorite beaver moist by making a contribution to the Emergency Hydration Fund, we would be very grateful for that. You can do that by going to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, and buying your favorite beaver a mug of hot chocolate, or your favorite grizzly a cup of dark and bitter coffee. Or you could scan that QR code that's right there too if you want to get to our coffee page. When you add a couple of loonies or toonies to our jar, it of course makes us very happy. And there's someone knocking at the back door, so I'm hoping that my Beaver Sweetie is able to get that because I can't get up as I'm closing the show. Kids and Cubs, so please do contribute. We really do need your help, and we are very, very grateful for it. Now, if you're not able to contribute financially, Kids and Cubs, please do not worry, because the gifts of your attention and your participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And, we want to hear from you. So please write to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And Kids and Cubs, remember, if you're buying Canadian and want to do it to us, that's the email address at which you can do it to keep your transaction 100% Canadian, avoid the USC Tech Bro cut, and ensure that we get 100% of your donation. But if you want to write to us, that's also where you do it. If you have some guest suggestions, or you want to let us know what you think about the show, all that good stuff. And of course, if you want to find us on our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge and on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on our Facebook page, and of course on our YouTube page, as I mentioned before, right here in the comments section. Let us know what you think. We really appreciate that. And I do not know why the light keeps on changing to wash me out more and more. But yeah, it keeps on. I think it has a mind of its own today. Um, let's see, what else do we have, Kids and Cubs? That's to write to us. So I guess we're at the democracy, something that you do portion, Kids and Cubs. Forever-Canadian.ca. please go there, especially if you're from Alberta, so that you can sign the petitions that will allow for a positive question about Alberta remaining in Canada to make it on the Citizens Initiative ballot. And there, of course, you can sign up to be a canvasser as well. And of course, to make a donation to the organization because they too incur some costs in this effort to gather the signatures that they need, about 294,000 of them total. So let's make sure that we get that accomplished. Of course, if you're in Newfoundland and Labrador, we have a provincial election coming up. So please research your candidates and help them out if there's some that you like. And of course, call elections. Newfoundland and Labrador to see if there's any way that you can help there at a polling station, for example. Now, kids and cubs, there are many methods of voting available. You can vote in person on advanced voting days, which is Tuesday, October 7th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. You can vote in person on regular polling day at your assigned poll on Tuesday, October 14th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7:30 a.m. to 7:30. You can vote in person by special ballot at any Elections Newfoundland and Labrador office in the province. And please go to elections.gov.nl.ca/voting to find a link where you can get more information about voting in person by special ballot. And then you can request your vote by mail kit using the online special ballot portal. And in order to do that, I believe there might be a deadline. Just taking a look here to see if there's any information for you here. You can call 1-877-729-7987 to call to get your kit, but you can also order it online as well if you need to. And I don't see any information about a deadline here on the page that I'm looking at the moment. But of course, I will go in there and find out more information for you here, kids and cubs. To be able to get that information for you. But the advanced polling day is Tuesday, October 7th, and then election day is on the 14th. All right. So let's see. Elections Canada. No, sorry. Elections Newfoundland and Labrador. ForeverCanadian.ca. Oh, yes. And the petition. Yes. Petition number E6679. If you go to ourcommons.ca and look for petition E-6679 about ethical issues, it's a petition that would ask Parliament to create some type of mechanism by which MPs' public statements to maintain trust in our governing body can indeed be. Hold on. I'm sorry, kids and cubs. Okay. We had an appointment for some people to come and give us an estimate for some renovations we're looking to do, and they were supposed to arrive at 10, but it seems that they have arrived half an hour early. So I'm sorry, kids and cubs, for that. But yes, getting back to the petition, a petition that could bring forward legislation before 2026 for the disqualification of members and candidates found guilty of deliberate deception through an independent judicial process, and looking for that type of legislation here. We have 25,527 signatures so far on this petition. So please go to ourcommons.ca and look for petition E6679, and hopefully we can get more signatures on that. That's already a lot of signatures for this type of petition, I believe. But the more that are there, the more it sends the signal to the government that this is something we really want and would encourage and increase the possibilities that we actually do get that kind of legislation. All right, kids and cubs, words of wisdom. I'm going to give you some basic ones because I followed them this weekend. Take a little time to disconnect. It's good for the soul, trust me, especially considering how Politics are? I think that's the scientific technical term for it. Well, so, every now and then, if you have an opportunity to disconnect, please do. I am very glad that I did over the past weekend, because, it nurtured my soul, so hopefully, that would be good, for you too, if you have the opportunity. Ah, kids and cubs, it can be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, at the count of three, if I may ask you to please, all in unison, say, Mr. Beaver, cue the cock. In one, two, three. Oh, you lovelies. You always warm my heart when you participate so joyously. How can I resist you? How can I refuse you? You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. I do not know where I am. There we go. It took me a while to pop up on the screen. Kids and cubs, just a quick little bit of news of Canadians that make us proud. Another weekend, another world champion for Canada. This one a surprise by Paula Nichols at Olympic.ca. Magdalene Valliere stunned everyone at the 2025 UCI Road World Championships in Kigali, Rwanda on Saturday, as the 24-year-old from Sherbrooke, Quebec won gold in the women's road race. She is the first Canadian man or woman to become an elite road race world champion and will have the honor of wearing the rainbow jersey for the next year, including at the 2026 UCI Road World Championships, which will take place in Montreal, of all places. So she'll be able to be wearing that jersey at home. And this here is a picture of our world champion. Uh, she looks positively elated. How wonderful for her. The girls believed in me, so I believed in myself, and I really committed to going for it, Valliere said in reference to her Canadian teammates Alison Jackson, Olivia Baril, Laurie Millette, and Emilie Fortin. I told myself that I didn't want any regrets, and I don't. Valliere made her big attack on the final climb in the last 2 kilometers of the 164.6-kilometer race. Ay, ay, ay. That allowed her to get the win by 23 seconds ahead of Niamh Fisher-Black of New Zealand. Mavi Garcia of Spain was a further 4 seconds back for the bronze. The 11-lap race included 2 climbs, the steep Côte de Kigali Golf and the cobbled Côte de Kimihurura. In the early going of the race, Valliere smartly rode near the front, but always in the draft of other riders. There was an initial break by Austria's Karina Schrempf, who was later joined by 2 other riders, while a chasing group that included Valliere gradually closed the gap. On the bell lap, Valliere found herself in the lead group with a 30-second gap on the pack, and as the race neared its end, the 3 eventual medalists broke away heading into the last climb of the Côte de Kimihurara. Valliere made her decisive move, which neither Fisher-Black nor Garcia could respond to. I knew I probably wouldn't win in a sprint against Niamh because she's strong, Valliere said of her decision to attack when she did. We were both committed to this break, working really hard, and then I saw that she was fading a little bit, so I told myself I just have to go all in now, and yeah, it all worked out in the end. Valliere had just one prior road race victory on her resume, the Trofeo Palma Femina, in 2024. She was the runner-up in the women's road race at the 2024 Canadian Championships and finished 14th at last year's World Championships. Only 4 other Canadians have ever stood on an elite road race podium at the World Championships, all with bronze medals: Steve Bauer and Michael Woods in the men's event in 1984 and 2018, respectively, and Alison Sidor and Linda Jackson in the women's event in 1991 and 1996, respectively. So, yeah, Way to go, Mademoiselle Valliere. And thank you for doing Canada so proud. And of course, we have more athletes that have done us proud over the past little bit that we will bring you because we had, of course, the World Para Swimming Championships happening as well. We'll bring you news about how Canada did there too on some future shows. But for now, kids and cubs, that's all I've got for you. And have to go meet the people who are coming to give us an estimate. So, like magic, I am gone.